Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source, quality, affordable land in the state of New Mexico. I am very excited today, people, because on the website we are debuting roughly 40 properties in a subdivision that we have been working on purchasing in for some time. These first 40 properties are the first part of a bulk acquisition that we've been working on for 6 months. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be debuting more and more properties, easily over 100 new properties in this region. Additionally, as time goes on, depending on when you're watching this video, we will be listing more and more in this area. So we hope to have a large collection of properties in this region. So let me just quickly begin the video with a couple disclosures that we need to get out of the way. And if you're not interested in hearing me rattle on about this, you can just fast forward in the video. We should have little time-coded notes somewhere down here about at what part of the video I begin discussing whichever topic. So if you're more interested in learning about, say, the purchasing process or about zoning, you can fast forward to those parts. All right, here we go. Disclosure number 1. This video is going to be a subdivision-specific video. It's not going to be property-specific. Instead, I'm going to talk about the subdivision itself, and I'm going to post this on every one of these listing pages from now until the end of time. So if we have 500 properties out here, each one will have this video. That's number 1. Number 2. You can go to our New Mexico listings page. You can scroll down to Valencia County. That's where all these properties are located. And you can try and compare and contrast all of these properties by clicking around listing to listing to listing to listing. And that will produce some results. You'll be able to bring up the properties on a map on their respective listing pages, look at photos, etc. The listing pages, however, are largely interchangeable. The information is largely the same because the properties within the subdivision are largely interchangeable and the same. So with that in mind, I want to point out to you guys that on every one of these listing pages, we're going to have 2 helpful links here. The second one first, down here. Click here for the Rio Grande Estates information page and FAQ. If you click on this, it will bring up this listing page, which will be sort of a master information page that will have a lot of the information about zoning, about nearby towns and resources. There'll be explanations of what we call zone maps, which I'll get into. We'll discuss more about the subdivision itself. There will also be explanations of just various ways to kind of learn more about these properties. There will be a frequently asked questions section, which should pretty much answer every question that we will ever get on this region. And I know this because I've been answering questions on regions like this for years, okay? So I would encourage you guys, if you do have questions, if you do have reservations about this, if there are things you want to learn more, they will likely be either discussed in this video, written on this page, or both, okay? So anyway, that's number 1. The second link that I want to make you guys aware of is this first one right here. Click here to see the master list of all of our Rio Grande Estates properties. This will bring up a helpful spreadsheet. Now, guys, this spreadsheet is only helpful, realistically, if you're viewing it on a PC, a laptop, or maybe a tablet, an iPad, okay? If you're looking at this on your phone, oh, you're in for a world of hurt. So here's the deal, guys. There's going to be information on all the properties. You can bring them up one by one, GPS coordinates, pull them up on a map. You can look at their plat maps, kind of compare and contrast where they're located. You can see what the situation is with power, with the road conditions. If they have any notable features, you can see what the price is and if any financing is offered. And you can also, let me scroll over, you can purchase them on this sheet. I should also mention, guys, that this column over here, if you click any of the reference numbers, it'll take you directly to that property's listing page. So if you're trying to find the best lot for your purposes, you got it narrowed down to 3, this is a good way of kind of figuring out which one ultimately works best for you and navigating more quickly to that information. All right, back here. Next disclosure as we go up here. The photos on this page. So our thing here at Hemingway Land is we get photos from every property that we ever list. So as we have property-specific photos. Because we are buying so many lots in this region, we instead broke the photos down into various zones throughout the subdivision. So, for instance, because a lot of the land is very similar, because this would be visually redundant, and because we just can't get the photographer to shoot 200, 1-acre properties, we have photos that are more representative of various regions of the subdivision, and those are displayed on the respective listing pages, and I think will give you an excellent idea of the property, the terrain, the surroundings, etc. If I didn't feel they would, I wouldn't do it that way, okay? And finally, guys, the one last thing to discuss is that, as noted, these properties are in a subdivision called Rio Grande Estates. It is in Valencia County. Please take note that in the past, in the future, we will sell properties in a subdivision called Rio Grande Estates in Socorro County. These two subdivisions are two wholly different things because they're governed by two wholly separate county governments, okay? So each one has their own benefits and drawbacks, but you need to be aware of where you're buying land at and etc. So I just want to make you aware that even though they share the same name, they're two totally different things. All right, we're now 5 minutes into disclosures, and now I can begin to talk about these properties. Here we go. So first off, let's bring them up on a map. As with all of our listing pages, we've got GPS coordinates down here on each of our listing pages, as well as on the aforementioned spreadsheet. If you click any one of those GPS coordinates, it will bring the properties up on Google Maps. So first off, just a quick acclimation here with geography. If you know nothing about New Mexico, most likely you're certainly aware of Albuquerque. Up here in the north central part of the state, that is the most population dense city in the state. It is the fastest growing city in the state. That obviously is where all of the action is. These properties, you can see represented here on the map, are just south of Albuquerque, here along the I-25, down here through the I-25 corridor, roughly, let's say roughly, about a 30-minute drive. If we right-click and measure distance up to here, you can see, yes, about 30 miles, but keep in mind all of that's highway driving, so maybe 20, 25 minutes, something like that if you're doing 80 miles an hour. Additionally, guys, it should be noted that the Rio Metro rail line is right here, which will take you from nearby Belen or Los Lunas into Albuquerque, as well as places north, such as the state capital in Santa Fe. Okay, so you've got a lot of travel options here if you want to get back and forth between these places. Now, more to the point, just want to quickly mention that the biggest town closest to the properties is, of course, Los Lunas. As noted, all of these properties are in Valencia County, and Los Lunas is the county seat of Valencia County. It's got a population of roughly 16,000 people, which means, of course, you've got all the big box stores, all the restaurants, all the amenities will be within very close driving distance of the property. It should also be noted that these properties are none too far. Let's right-click and measure distance once more, guys. None too far from down here. Elephant Butte Lake, roughly about 105 miles, let's say about an hour and a half drive time down, again, the I-25. Elephant Butte Lake is, of course, the largest body of water in the state. So it's a little bit of a drive, but it's not too far. And, of course, that is a great recreation area down there, fishing, boating, jet skiing, so on and so forth. All right. With all that said, let's zoom in here on the map. And we're going to go to satellite view. So the first thing that I want to show you guys is, as noted, all these properties are in a subdivision called Rio Grande Estates. Let's define exactly where that is. Pretty much, so you've got all this developed area right here in Valencia County. All of this basically along the Rio Grande River and along the I-25 corridor. As you venture just a little bit east of this developed region, pretty much everything you see here on the map is a subdivision called Rio Grande Estates. Now, on our master information page, you will be able to find this rough circled representation of all the land out here that equals Rio Grande Estates. Honestly, this circle does not do it justice because it does extend all the way down basically to the Socorro County line, which is somewhere down around here. So you've got a whole lot of land in this region. The plat of the subdivision, get ready to get bored, people, if you're not already. The plat of the subdivision is numbered A through Z. As far as units, it's got A through Z units, which are all half acres, and it's got 1 through 27 units, which are all 1 acre properties. And each of those units has roughly 30 blocks. Each of those blocks has roughly 30 lots. If you do the math on that, it shakes out to be a lot of parcels. Roughly, I'm going to say roughly somewhere between 40 and 50,000 parcels are in this region comprising this subdivision. Now, let's briefly mention a couple things here. Number one, power kind of ends over in this part of the area. So this whole massive subdivision is largely without power lines, okay? Number one. Number two, some of the best roads are over here in this portion of the subdivision. If you zoom in on the map, you will see there are some main roads that cut through here. This one's called Navajo Loop North. This is Navajo Loop South. Obviously, this is State Road 47 right here, and there's a road over here. It's sometimes called Military Highway on these maps. Sometimes it's called Trigo Springs. Whatever. The point is there are some very well-maintained roads throughout this area that you can get through, and there's some lesser well-maintained roads that are more overgrown. Either way, if you're going out here to buy a property, to scout a property, a larger truck or off-road capable vehicle is what's required. Whatever the case, when we look at a giant region like this, and I tell you, hey, there's no utilities out here, there's no, whatever, we'll stick with utilities. There's no utilities out here, roads are a little rough, etc. You may be saying, well, who would want to buy that property? Who is the buyer for this property? So let me give you a little history lesson here. in this region, and we'll talk more about that. So, as we stare at the map, number one, Rio Grande Estates is another one of these regions of New Mexico where a developer came in back in the late 50s, early 60s. They bought up all of this land, thousands and thousands of acres, and they subdivided everything. They chopped it all up into half and into 1 acre properties. And then they flew back east and they sold these properties to people in Jersey and Connecticut and Delaware and Florida, people who were not familiar with Albuquerque and were not going to get on a plane and fly to the West Coast. And they said, oh my God, guys, this is a great investment. It's a great investment, guys. Albuquerque is booming. Kirk Douglas just made a movie there. It's going to be fantastic. This place is going to be, there's going to be $1 million properties, guys. $1 million properties in just a few years, right? And it's just right in the shadows of Albuquerque. Buy the land now. Incredible investment opportunity. So people back east who didn't know any better spent more money than was probably reasonable to invest in land anywhere at that time. And they sold all these thousands and thousands of lots based off the premise that, oh, give it 10 years and this area is going to be booming. So obviously now it's about 60 years later and the area is still not booming. There's some encroaching development over here. If you kind of go up in the northern area here, there's a subdivision that's venturing its way slowly east toward the mountains. There's another one over here, etc. But the point is that the area never lived up to that. And because of that, basically the land became devalued over time, okay? In the 70s, zoning law became sort of uniform throughout the state, and it prohibited, let's say, we'll make this simple, it prohibited building on a lot of half-acre parcels, right? So if half the subdivision are half-acre parcels, you have a lot of people who immediately lost interest in their land, and because of that, as time went on, they didn't deed it to relatives. The property got devalued so much the taxes went down to basically nothing, $5 a year. And so you got a lot of dead people who own land here, and their relatives keep paying taxes on it because they knew the dead guy, but they never got the property in their name. So point is, there's a lot of reasons why the region hasn't been developed. Now, we have sold land here in the past, and I like to say all of that in these videos and make it clear because I don't want to represent this to you in the same way developers did 60 years ago. Like, oh my God, this is going to be $1 million property in 5 years. I don't believe that, nor would I say that. What I will tell you is that we have buyers, however, who are very interested in this region for a variety of reasons. Now, the first type of buyer are people who live up here in Albuquerque, right? They live up here in Albuquerque. They make a good living, but they don't like living in Albuquerque, either because they want more open space themselves. Right now, they're answering to a landlord. They've got a bank and a mortgage that they have to take care of every month. They want a property that they can buy for themselves, and maybe they've got some money saved up. They can develop the thing quickly, or maybe it'll be a 3 or 5 year investment of really building up a piece of property out in a nice rural setting where they don't have neighbors and where people will leave them alone. So that's the first type of buyer who really likes this region. The second are people who are looking for investment properties. Now, we just talked about how these are not necessarily the types of investment properties where you're going to make $1 million. That being said, there are developers, there are companies, there are some savvy individuals who know this area very well and are planning on one day soon, somebody over here in this region is going to want to build a strip mall, right? Or maybe some developer over here by the mountains is going to want to put in a whole bunch of really nice homes that sit in the shadows of the mountains and they're secluded and each one sits on a nice spread of land, blah, blah, blah. And the only thing really preventing that is that everything's a half or a 1 acre parcel. So these companies, these individuals have been buying up little 1 acre parcels in very specific regions for years, trying to recombine acreage, trying to basically have 20 acres here, or 40 acres here, or 50 acres down here. You run into that a lot, and that too is another one of the types of buyers who generally tend to focus on this region. Third is that, like most parts of New Mexico, this area is somewhat RV friendly. I'll get into it a little bit more, but the point is there are people who like to RV throughout New Mexico, and they want to spend 30 days here and 60 days up here and 2 months over here, and they like having the option, the ability to say, oh, I can RV on this property for X amount of time in the summer, and I could be this close to Albuquerque or this close to Los Lunas or whatever. But the point is that they like being that close and having the option to do that, to kind of set up a campsite for a couple months and then leave and not see it again for another year or two, something like that. Okay? So with all that said, those are the types of buyers who generally like this region. Perhaps that describes you. If you're still watching this video, it probably does. Whatever the case, let's get back to talking more about the specifics of the area, and let's go to the photo gallery so I can stop boring you with this map. So here we go. All right, so first up, guys, just things to be aware of. As I mentioned earlier, Los Lunas nearby, county seat, population 16,000. I mentioned this, of course, because this is the closest town to the area. We have photos here of the area just to give you a sense of exactly how developed this is, and just to get a sense of the fact that you're not a million miles from civilization, even if you have a rural parcel like this. You've got medical services around the corner, you've got post offices, you've got your Walmart, and you've got your Home Depot out here. So if you do decide to develop the land, you're not going to be too far from groceries or building supplies, the things that one would need when developing a home site. Of course, you've got grocery stores out here, you've got all the amenities, drugstores, banks, so on and so forth, okay? Now, as we go through this, let's talk about a couple things. Number one, this is a photo of State Road 47 out here. This is, of course, one of your major paved roads, as I indicated on the map. Back to the map over here, guys. This is the 47. It cuts through the area, and it starts over here really in the developed region, and then makes its way south-southeast down here. Point being, this is one of the paved roads that you're going to find out here. Let me make sure I'm clicking on the right. Yes, there it is. All right. And over here, you've got power in this region. In this western portion of the subdivision by the I-25, by State Road 47, you will find more power lines. This, however, is more representative of what you're going to find throughout the rest of the subdivision. Now, let me quickly say this. On our listing page here, on this master listing page, we have kind of helpfully broken this down into 4 zones, okay? And I define what these zones are down here and what they might mean to a particular buyer. But if you're the type of person who says, well, I don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere, I want to be somewhat close to utilities in an area that's probably going to be developed, then you would be looking for properties in Zone 1. And if that does describe you, then if you just go to our spreadsheet here, the B column has the zones, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Find all the ones that are in Zone 1, and you can find the properties that are more specific to your tastes, okay? But if you're looking for properties that are more remote, more privacy, fewer neighbors, fewer prying eyes, not only from people, but also from county government, then you might want to be in, say, Zone 3 over here, okay? Whatever the case, that's just a helpful tip for how to kind of navigate all this stuff. Whatever the case, as we go through this, as noted, power does not extend throughout the subdivision. It really kind of stops over there by State Road 47. You'll find little exceptions here and there, but for the most part, people who have developed land in this region are utilizing solar panels. And over here in the western region of the subdivision, you will find more roads like this that are labeled, signs, things like that. The county tends to maintain this area a little bit better, so you will also find some developed home sites out here. When it comes to, so let's talk about this. We got roads right here. Let's talk about road access. Roads throughout this region. Back to the map. All right, as noted, you've got developed roads here that go through the whole place. You can get back and forth if you need to. It's not going to be difficult. That being said, let's say you buy a parcel out here, okay, right here. As you can see on the satellite map, there are some lines right here that would equal roads. Now, let's be clear first. Everything out here has legal access, okay? There's legal access, and then there's practical, realistic, can I actually get to the property type of access? And when you find properties that are out here, like in this region, they've got legal access. These things right here, these lines don't exist on the map by coincidence. These are the legal roads, quote unquote. Now, they were probably named 60 years ago and nobody's thought to put up a street sign. Additionally, they might be a little difficult to traverse. If you're driving through here, they might look like this, okay? Or they might, let's say, just look like this. Some roads are a little harder to discern than others. So so we're going to be pricing these properties pretty affordably, and one of the reasons is because I anticipate anybody who is going to be developing land out here is probably going to have to invest in, if we just go back to this a little bit, it's probably going to have to invest in, number one, just getting a surveyor to, tell them where exactly does this property begin and end. We recommend that with all our properties. Obviously, we're giving you GPS coordinates, but your surveyor is probably also going to have to tell you, here's where your legal easement is. Okay, so that's one of the reasons that we're pricing this lower. Now, maybe some of you don't care about a legal easement because, hey, Hemingway, if nobody's living up here, I could just pretty much drive wherever I want to get down to the property over here. That is probably true, but if you want to abide by the legal easements, you can invest in that, okay? Anyway, back to the photos here. So that's the deal with the roads. Again, some of them not discernible on a map, some of them not even discernible in person. They are what I will call overgrown. And again, if you go back to our spreadsheet, you'll see road conditions. If it's not paved, if it's not like an immediate access situation, we will write on there overgrown. Overgrown doesn't necessarily mean you can't drive it. Certainly you can. But again, anybody going out here should probably take a larger truck or off-road capable vehicle, particularly if they're going out into the further reaches of the subdivision. Okay? Additionally, cell reception. Everybody's going to ask about cell reception. Cell reception out in this region is surprisingly good. I don't know how that's possible, but it is. Every time my photographer goes out there, he reports 0 problems, 0 incidents, and we have him reporting back to us on this sort of thing, okay? Maybe he has the best carrier in the world. I don't know, but that is at least what he has told me. All right, let's talk about water table. So, as always with properties that we list here at HemingwayLand.com, I am not an expert on water table depth. And this is a giant subdivision occupying thousands and thousands of acres of land. So maybe it's really accessible over here and not accessible here, or vice versa. Maybe here you only have to, let's pick a different part of the map. Maybe down here you only have to drill 100 feet to get water, and up here it's 1,000 feet. I have no idea. And if that's something you're going to be doing, if you're saying, hey, I'm buying a property, I'm going to develop it, I'm going to put in a well like probably these people did, because there's no city water out here, then you really should invest some time in calling local well drillers and inquiring about the region. And, again, it's a massive region, so they'll probably tell you the same thing I'm telling you. Just like, listen, buddy, I don't know. I got to go out to the property and figure it out, for that specific property. That being said, a lot of these people are at least conversant enough in the region that if you read them the legal description, let's say, hey, it's in unit X, whatever, right? They can at least probably ballpark, oh, okay, well, that's in this region over here. So yeah, we've drilled some wells over there before. It's the drill depth is not too far down, not too expensive. But the point is, it's always best. You're buying property from us or anybody else, talk to a well driller in advance. Obviously, on our listing pages, we always link to the state engineer's office, who's responsible for water rights and well permits in the region. And I'll show you that later on in the video. But the point is, people who do it for a living, who do it every day, are usually the best resource. Here in the photo gallery, I'm showing you guys some pictures of houses because there are, in fact, developed houses out here. Of course, all of these photos were taken more in the western end of the subdivision, more in what I'm calling Zone 1, more in this area over here, okay? But the point is, there are people who are living out here who have made nice lives for themselves. They have some nice homes and are very likely utilizing wells to get water to their property, drinking water, bathing water, etc. You've also got some small kind of farm operations out here additionally. Anyway, what else? Yes, HOAs. There is no HOA in this region. This is another reason why buyers who have bought land out here before really like it. There's no HOA, there's no annual dues, and there are no covenants and restrictions in this area. Additionally, as we start to get into the photos that occupy the eastern part of the subdivision, you can see that you've got some really nice unobstructed views of the Manzano Mountains out here. So there are people who do like to live out close to that. They do like to wake up to those views every day. Or, as noted, some people are just buying investment property because they think, oh, one day somebody's going to want to build out here by these mountains, and they want to get in on it early, okay? Anyway, some trains over here. These are closer to State Road 47. They don't go throughout the subdivision. Yeah. Anyway, there are roughly about a bajillion photos that we have out here, particularly on this master information page. And you can go through all these, and these should give you an excellent sense of what this region's like. Let me just focus on the mountains one more time here, guys, because I really like these photos. As you can see, gorgeous picturesque area out here. I, however, will let you peruse these on your own. These, of course, are representative of the 4 zones of all the land within this region. And they'll give you a sense, of course, of property, terrain, surroundings, etc. We will, as always, have a drone video down here, as well as at the bottom of all of our listing pages. The master information page is where you can find the collection of all the photos if you do want to peruse these on your own time. All right? Next, let's talk about zoning. So this entire area is zoned Rural Residential 1. If you come up here on any one of our listing pages, bullet point 3 is about zoning, and there will be a link here to the PDF. That is the Rural Residential PDF that talks about what you can and cannot do in this region. Let me simplify this for you guys. If you're looking to do a single-family residence, a home, you're probably set. They're not going to argue with you about that. If you want to do a mobile or a modular home out here, you can do that. If you're looking to do a tiny home, an earthship home, a yurt, something like that, that is probably going to be frowned on in this region, at least by the letter of the zoning law. And if you're looking to do a shipping container, most likely if you're up to building code in the state, you're going to be able to get that done. The question, of course, that is most common that we get all the time has to do with RVs, so I do want to direct your attention to right here in the PDF. Recreational vehicles shall not be used as primary residences in any RR district. Now, you can RV on the land out here for 30 days, and if you've got a building permit, if you're building a permanent structure, obviously they're going to expect you need to live out of something while you're building the thing that is unlivable. So in those cases, you get a building permit, 12 months, you can live out of the RV, and you can obviously get that extended if it takes more time to build the structure. Point being, this is a good sort of introduction to what an RR1 district is defined as, what you can do, what you cannot do. As always, guys, we do recommend that if you have specific questions about, let's say, a mobile home, the skirting of the home, how old can the home be, things like that, talk to the Valencia County Planning and Zoning Office. They are going to be the best resource for that type of information. Okay. Finally, guys, I do want to direct your attention down here on the listing page. We do have links to the local utility company, PNM, and we do have, as noted, the New Mexico State Engineer Office, so that will bring up either one of those respective websites. If you happen to be buying land that is actually close to a PNM utility, and there are a few properties that we have that have power at the lot line. Obviously, you can reach out to these people. You can talk to them in advance. Cost, logistics, what does it cost to get hooked up to the grid, so on and so forth. But again, a lot of people in this very rural region are utilizing solar panels. Now, just very quickly, just to kind of talk more about zoning for just a second, I was talking about how it's an RR district. There's a lot of land in Valencia County, not just over here, but a lot of land in Valencia County that falls under this designation of rural residential. And if you pick a subdivision like this up here, which is a pretty developed region, has utilities, has a lot of homes, if you kind of zoom in on the map and you look at what homes are like up here, no offense, okay, but it doesn't seem to me like Valencia County is enforcing much of their zoning. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just say that. When I see a yard that looks like this, I can't believe that anybody, 1, knows, 2, cares, 3, is being fined, or 4 is paying the fines. So, point being, if you do have plans to use the land for some other way than I've indicated, can be used. Like, I'm going to go out there and put my RV there for a year, and I'm not going to say anything to anybody about, well, give it a shot, because you'll probably get away with it. But officially, in my selling you of the land, I'm just letting you know what the official zoning code is for this area and what that means. And you can do with that what you will. But point being, my guess is nobody's out here inspecting properties to see if your building permit expired a month ago or whatever, okay? Anyway, with all that said, guys, I think we're finally at the part of the video where we talk about how the buying process works. So let's discuss this. Some of these pages are going to have a price and a buy now button, and they're going to look like this. And other pages are going to look like this. So these are the pages that have a financing option. So you could pay the cash price by clicking this button up here, and it will take you to secure checkout where you can enter the entire purchase price of the property. Give us your name for deed, tax address, so on and so forth. And within 24 hours, we're going to get you documentation in an email. Once you approve it, we're going to mail it off to the county. County records, they forward it on to you, and you are the new owner of the land. To be clear, guys, we own all the properties that we list on our website. So once you give us money, as far as we're concerned, you're the owner, but we make it official with the county in the course of the next couple weeks. It takes just a little bit of time to get that documentation filed, okay? Anyway, if, however, you do not have the money to purchase for cash, you want to spread this out a little bit more, we're going to have convenient financing options on a lot of these properties. Now, right now at the time I'm recording this, we're only offering financing options on 3 of the first 40, something like that. But there will be way more in the future. Anyway, if you want to exercise that option, all you do is you come up here, you click this checkout, and it will take you to another secure checkout where we'll set you up for whatever the terms are on that. So with these, it's going to be, oh, excuse me, I clicked the wrong one. Hang on. It's going to be this one. $300 down plus $100 a month for 18 months. Let's be clear about a couple things. I'm trying to do really uniform pricing in this region. 1-acre lots for $1,200, 2-acre lots for $2,400, so on and so forth. It's a little bit difficult to do because for however interchangeable a lot of the properties are, there are, however, some properties, particularly over here in Zone 1, that do have access right here off the state road. They have power at the lot line. They're in a developing region. For those, we're charging a little bit more. Whatever the case, the pricing that I've suggested, $1,200 for 1 acre, $2,400 for 2 acres, so on and so forth, that's going to be mostly what it conforms to. Now, if you do want to do the payment option up here, guys, and you're wondering to yourself, hey, what are they going to ask me to sign? Conveniently, on these pages where financing is offered, we have down here a link to a generic version of our standard land contract, which when you click will be brought up in a new window so you can read over all the terms of what we'll be asking you to sign should you place the down payment. And of course, one thing we like to do with these properties is we make everything 90 days same as cash. So if you do hit the lottery next week, you don't have to pay the full 18 times or $100 18 times, you just pay the cash purchase price, which in the case of a 1 acre lot, it'd be $1,200 plus the $150 dock prep fee, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, guys, the contracts will go through the particulars of all this, and you can get an excellent sense of that before you give us $1, okay? And finally, I think actually I covered everything. Point being, guys, we're going to have convenient financing terms on a lot of these, not all of them. And I tried to keep the pricing all the same, but some lots are just a little bit better than others, so we offer them for a little bit more. Anyway, I hope all that's clear. If you guys have any questions, if I went through fast to anything, again, the master Rio Grande Estates page, which is linked on every listing page, will provide you answers to every conceivable question that I know people will call and ask. So feel free, read this over. We're going to have some helpful videos on here as well as the photos, plat maps, so on and so forth. You can review all that. And then hopefully you will be fully briefed on the land that you may be purchasing. Thanks again, as always, for watching, guys. This was a long video this time, but I appreciate your patience as always. See you in the next video.